Hey up everyone, welcome to the Rugby League History channel. Hope you're all well. Today's video is going to be another 2022 season review, and tonight it's going to be Manly-Warringah. So it's Manly-Warringah's turn to be reviewed by Rugby League History for the 2022 season reviews. Manly finished the 2022 NRL season in 11th place. They played 24 matches, 9 wins, 15 losses, 490 points for, 595 points against. Ruben Garrick was the top try scorer with 12 tries, and he was also the top point scorer for the year with 162. The biggest crowd of the year that they got were against West Tigers in round 9. 17,385 people attended that, and they averaged around about 13,500 for the entire year for their home crowds. Before the season began, from what I read and what I could see on social media and through people I know personally, a lot of people had Manly-Warringah to come in the top 4 and definitely finish in the finals places for 2022. The season didn't start that great for them though. They lost their opening 2 matches against Penrith and Sydney Roosters, which, I mean, by most people's accounts, isn't a bad thing considering how good them 2 clubs have been in the past. But they lost them games regardless. However, they went on a 4-game winning streak, and things looked like they were turning around for the Manly club in 2022. At that stage, after round 6, they were sat 6th on the table. But following on from that moment, for the rest of the year, were pretty disappointing for Manly. They went through a lot of periods of winning a couple of games, losing a couple of games. In round 7, of course, they had that disappointing loss against Cronulla where Siosifa Talakai ran riot. Then they followed that up with another disappointing loss against South Sydney, up there at Gosford there, 40 points to 22. And they also had another really disappointing loss in round 10 against Brisbane. They were held scoreless, 38 points to 0. In round 11, this is where the Manly club really struggled from this point on. Tom Trbojevic went down with a shoulder injury in the second half against Parramatta. They lost the match 22 points to 20, courtesy of Mitchell Moses' goal from the sideline with about a minute to go. They did bounce back though, however. In round 13, they did beat New Zealand 44 points to 12. And in round 14, they beat West Tigers 30 points to 4. But once again, them inconsistencies come back. In round 15, they were ahead by a considerable margin against North Queensland. They threw that game away. They lost that 28 points to 26. And then the following week, they nearly did it again. But luckily, they managed to hold on against Melbourne 36 points to 30. And they followed that up in round 18 with a 42 points to 12 win over Newcastle. In round 20, however, though, this is going to be talked about by pretty much everyone that does a Manly-Warringah season review for this year. And there's no way of really getting around it because we're a big moment of the year. The gay pride, the inclusivity jersey that Manly decided to wear without some of the players' consultation beforehand, that really changed the year in such a way that they didn't even win a single match for the rest of the year after this incident. 7 players elected not to play that match against Sydney Roosters in round 20 of the competition, and it got to a point where Manly had to get players from Blacktown Workers to fill in. And from that moment on, they didn't win a single game for the rest of the year, as I just mentioned. They were beaten by Parramatta, Gold Coast. They lost another Battle of the Beaches match against Cronulla. This time, they were worse than the first encounter of the year. Then they were belted by Canberra. And to finish off the year, they had a very narrow 1-point loss to Canterbury Bankstown. Some people will probably blame the gay pride thing or the inclusivity jersey caper on Manly's failure to make the finals, but I think they were sat 11th at the time. They didn't look like a finals team. That were more of a final nail in the coffin for them. The following week against Parramatta, that was the must-win game if they had any chance of making the finals, and they were beaten 36 points to 20, and even Jacob Arthur got in on the act with their 2 try assists there. So throughout the year, they struggled with a lot of injuries as well. Unfortunately for some of their players, there were season-ending injuries, like Carl Lawton was out with a with a neck injury, I believe. Tom Travojevic, obviously a shoulder injury. Massive blow for the club. They didn't really have a full squad for the year, and that certainly didn't help them. But also, just in a couple of the games against Parramatta, they were ahead by about 10 points with about 12 to go. They lost that. The game against North Queensland, they lost that. And they almost threw it away against Melbourne. So even in games where they were in it, they did throw away leads, and they didn't really know how to quite close out a game in 2022. Looking back at probably their best win, in my personal opinion, for 2022, I'd have to see round 4 against Canberra, 25 points to 6. They played very well in that match. And in round 18 against Newcastle, they won that 42 points to 12. Besides that, there weren't really too many matches that you can look at where you could see Manly had a really good game. They had a lot of very poor matches and not very many good ones. In terms of their worst losses of the year, I'd probably have to say the loss against Brisbane, 38-0, and then of course the Battle of the Beaches match in round 23, losing 40 points to 6 against Cronulla, and then the following week losing 48 points to 6 against Canberra. 2 very disappointing weeks in a row there for Manly. If I were to choose the best player of the year for Manly, I'd probably say, from what I could see, Olakau'atu was one of their best players of the year. They didn't really have too many good standout players this year, but I think definitely Olakau'atu, and I'd probably throw Ruben Garrick in there as well. To score 162 points in a side like Manly this year, in my personal opinion, is a good effort. Going into next year, it's really hard to see where Manly's going to finish. They could make the finals, or they could have another disappointing year. It's really hard to tell. It's a bit too early at this stage. I've read reports that Des Hasler is already under pressure. I'm reading an article about Anthony Seibold taking over at Manly. I hope, if you're a Manly supporter, that doesn't come true, because we all know what Seibold did at Brisbane there. But other than that, very disappointing year for Manly. A lot of people had them in the top 4, and they fell short, coming 11th. But anyways, everyone, that's me 2022 season review for Manly-Warringah. Hope you enjoyed that video. If you did, let me know in the comment section below. Let me know what your thoughts were on Manly's season this year, who their best players were, what their best match and worst match was. Type that all down below. Don't forget that the Rugby League YouTuber End of Season Awards are coming very soon. I've got a few categories. Make sure you go and vote on those for your favourite YouTubers of the year. And also go and check out the View from the North podcast. That's me and Just Rugby League. We did another episode last night where we talked about the Rugby League World Cup. And stay tuned for the Rugby League World Cup vlogs I'll be doing. Anyways, everyone, I'll catch you all later in the next video. Ta-ra for now.